We were getting paid like $28 per hour, like as new grad nurses. And sometimes we would even have 3 patients, like, like waiting for a bed in the med surge, but like no space. And then so we would end up taking care of 3 patients, and they're all like sick patients. I remember the first few months I was doing both full-time nursing and full-time student. I worked night shift. I would clock out, still in my scrubs, go to my apartment real quick, change, and then at 8 o'clock, go to my class. I was like really hustling, and I'm actually going to be one of those people that's going to be up ringing the bell for an ETF that's going to be released in public by BlackRock. So it's going to be really exciting because it's my first time going to the New York Stock Exchange. I can go to the trading floor, and yeah, so I'm so excited.
If you're a nurse living paycheck to paycheck, then you're probably trying to figure out how to dig yourself out of a hole every single day. In this episode, I'm going to be speaking with a nurse who would wait for her paycheck to come before she could buy her next meal or pay her rent. She was raised by a mother who was a nurse and a father who was a physician, but she was never taught about money. It wasn't until she realized how difficult it was for her to make ends meet that she decided to make a difference. Fast forward to today, she has earned as much as $10,000 from social media in 1 month and has a job as a nurse practitioner making $170,000 per year. She also plans to retire before she's 45. Now she's providing so much valuable content to nurses on Instagram and TikTok that BlackRock has asked her to fly out to New York and ring the bell at Wall Street. I'm super excited about this interview, and I know you're going to be too. Now, with that said, Elaine, let us know a little bit about yourself and why you decided to become a nurse.
Okay, my name is Elaine Maala. I am a nurse practitioner right now, and I actually grew up in the Philippines with a bunch of nurses in the family. So initially I wanted to be a doctor, a physician, and my mom, who is a nurse, told me that nursing is the way to go. So I ended up going to school as a nurse, ended up loving the profession. Like I ended up loving being a nurse and the flexibility and just everything that you can do as a nurse. And I don't think a lot of people really know that they can leverage their nursing career to do other things in life that they love to do. Right now, I am a content creator. I am a business owner. I have content creation as a business, and I'm also starting my private practice. I am also a mom. I love being a mom. So I am a Libra. I love juggling everything all at once. Like I'm one of those people who always want to strive for work-life balance. And so, yeah.
All right. So listen, I'm not a Libra, but I juggle too many things at once.
I guess it's not just a Libra thing.
Okay. So did you grow up in the Philippines?
Yes, I actually did. I moved here in America when I was, I think, 15, almost turning 16 years old. So I did go to the Philippines high school. Like I went to high school in the Philippines. In the Philippines, we didn't have like middle school. So I actually graduated earlier. Like I was 16 years old when I moved here, and I went straight to college. So I actually graduated as a nurse at 21 years old. I was a new grad nurse at 21 years old, and I was just starting all this like big career at that early age.
Wow. How old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, I'm like 35.
Oh, okay. Now,
Yeah.
Monica, my wife, she's going to be 35 in like 2
Yeah.
weeks. So when is your birthday?
September. So I just turned 35. Yeah.
Cool. And how old is your daughter? You have a daughter or a son?
Yes. So I have a daughter and a son. So I had them in the pandemic. They're both pandemic babies, actually. I have a 3-year-old and also a 1.5-year-old, or like 18 months.
You know, that pandemic baby thing it's real. Like me and my wife, our daughter is not my biological daughter, but she put us through the ringer. And we were like, we are never going to have kids together ever. And then here comes the pandemic. We couldn't travel. We couldn't go anywhere.
Oh my gosh.
And
yeah.
we got pregnant. Now we have a 2.5-year-old.
That's awesome.
So I get where you, but were you planning to have a baby though?
The first one was actually planned. My husband and I got married in 2018. And then after that, we're ready to settle down. We're ready to have a family. And then so we were trying. I was like having a hard time, like getting pregnant and all that stuff. And then eventually ended up having my daughter. My daughter's actually born early. She was premature. She was only 34 weeks and she was like only 2 pounds. Like she was like this, like so tiny. Like I can literally hold her with one hand. And then so like seeing her now, it's like I'm just like so amazed like how she's grown like right now. And then our second one's actually not planned because after the first one, after like having a premature baby and like staying in the NICU for a while, I was like, I don't know if I want to have any more kids. Like it's hard to have a kid. Then it was during the pandemic and we were just like, I don't know. And then the second one just popped out and like, okay, I guess.
You know, Monica, I remember she had our daughter when she was like 28 weeks pregnant or something like that.
Oh,
So she was a
wow.
premature baby. And I
Uh-huh.
remember when we got pregnant with our son, and Monica wanted to go to Arizona for a photo shoot when she was like
Uh-huh.
38 weeks pregnant, I believe. I was
Uh-huh.
like, what is wrong with you? I am not going to have you deliver in Arizona. And then she ended up giving birth at 40 weeks.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, it went all the way to 40 weeks.
That's
And
so
we thought we were going to
crazy.
have to get her induced. He actually was born like 5 days before my birthday.
Oh, so
So,
you guys celebrated kind of like
yeah,
at the same time.
pretty much.
That's
Yeah, we
awesome.
were really hoping it would have been the same day, but it was just a few days before.
Wait, when was your birthday?
So mine is April 23rd, and he's
Oh,
born April 18th.
oh,
Yeah, and I remember at that time, I had like 3 other coworkers who were having kids at the same time. One of them was born a day before ours.
uh-huh.
Then another one was born 2 weeks before ours, and then another one was born 3 weeks before ours.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
funny.
Everyone just
Yeah, everyone was on maternity leave at the time.
that unit
So,
was like have a hard time finding people to work.
especially with me, because I'm already working like 20 hours a week. And at the time, I decided to go on when I went on paternity leave. The
Mhm.
way that it works is like you can section off your paternity leave. So you don't have to take all of it at the same time. So I took some pieces off here, then there, then there. And if I were to take like, let's say 1 week off, that
Mhm.
gives me 3 weeks off from work. So
Yeah,
I was off like 5 months that year.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I know. I want to go back to you said you were 21 when you got your nursing degree.
Yeah.
And what state were you in when you got your degree?
So I've always been in California. My mom actually, so she's a nurse, right? And so it was the hospital who petitioned her to come here in America. And so she worked here for maybe a couple of years before she petitioned all of us, like from the Philippines. So she worked here for 2 years and then she got all of us. And then we all went here in California because my dad does not like cold weather. Like he's always been used to like the warm weather. He's like, if we're going to move there, it has to be somewhere that's like kind of like the Philippines weather. Like I don't do well with cold. I don't like snow, none of that stuff. I've always been in California ever since.
And what part of California?
We lived in LA before, like in Montebello, like San Bernardino County. And then we ended up moving in Central California. Right now I'm yeah, so I've always been here.
I hear bad things about how bad is it actually?
It's not that bad, to be honest with you. I pretty much grew up here since I moved here. And it wasn't until maybe I was 25, almost 25, that I decided that I want to move somewhere. I'm going to move out of my parents' house. I don't want to stay here. You know, at that stage, like at that age, you just want like personal growth. Like I want to find myself, you know? So that's when I moved to Sacramento, and I did not know anybody in Sacramento. It was actually, I had like one nursing friend. It was actually a pretty crazy story how I got to Sacramento, because me and my friend, we were working as new grads in the ICU here in our city, and it's a county hospital. It was like so busy. Like we have traumas every, like, you know, every day almost. Like we're the only trauma hospital in our whole county. We were getting paid like $28 per hour, like as new grad nurses. And sometimes we would even have 3 patients, like, you know, like waiting for a bed in the med surge, but like no space. And then so we would end up taking care of 3 patients, and they're all like sick patients. So me and my friend, he's like my bestie at work, we're like, we're gonna move somewhere we're gonna get paid more, you know, like somewhere where we can like live the life and all that stuff, because there's not much to do. Honest with you, like people say it's like a cow tipping like place of
Yes.
no, but like there's not much to do here. It's not busy like LA and all that stuff. So we actually both got jobs in San Jose. There's like a trauma hospital there. He already moved before me. He was just waiting for me. He's like, your turn. Like, I'm just waiting for you. I'm a very intuitive person and I always follow my gut. And then so for some reason, I decided to look up hospitals like somewhere else, like in NorCal. And then then I applied at UC Davis. It's a neuro ICU. It's a neurosurgical ICU. I'm not specialized like here. Like when I was working here before, it was just like a medical surgical ICU. But I applied to a neurosurgical ICU, and then I was like, whatever happens, happens. I just put it in. And I even forgot that I actually like applied, and we were already on our way and ready to go to San Jose, right? He was like waiting for me. He's like, I'm so excited for you to move here. And then all of a sudden, like I got a phone call from like UC Davis. It was like a manager in the neuro ICU over there. It's like, I would like for you to come for an interview. We did like a phone interview at first. And I don't know why, but I just like went through with like the whole thing. So I did an interview and then did a second interview. I said, I don't live, close to where you're at. And so we just did phone interview, and she really liked me. She's like, I want you to join our team and all that stuff. And then one day, like I just woke up with a missed call saying that I got the job and this is the pay and all that stuff. Right there and then I took that job. And to be honest with you, I don't even know where UC Davis was. It was in Sacramento. I thought it was in Davis. So I was looking for apartments. I was looking for apartments in Davis, and I was looking, wait, where's the hospital? The hospital is actually in Sacramento. I was like, what? Like, I did not even know. And then so it was that time when I was just like, I'm just going to go. Like, I don't know anybody there. I'm going to go by myself. And then I ended up moving up north. And then my friend was still mad at me up to this day. He still gives me so much crap about it. He's like, you could have moved here in San Jose. You ended up moving in Sacramento. So I know we kind of went off tangent.
No, that's interesting. So how long did you work there for?
UC Davis, I worked there for maybe 5-6 years, but I worked maybe 3 years full time. And then the last 2 years I did per diem, because that was the time that I ended up going back to school to get my NP degree.
And you worked in the neuro ICU while you worked in UC Davis?
Yes, I work at the neurosurgical ICU, and then I ended up going to per diem. But at that time I was doing like a float nurse, so a float ICU nurse. So I floated in all the ICUs in UC Davis. They even have me as a break nurse at that time, which is the best job ever. Like I was like, if I can do this forever, I'm like golden. But they don't have like a full time for like a break nurse. I was doing it per diem, and at that time is when I started streaming video games, and that was kind of like my other source of income while I'm in school. So
wow. Okay, let's talk about that. But how much were you earning in UC Davis?
That phone call, when they offered it to me, it was like $54 per hour. I was like, whoa, I'm in. Like I am getting paid $28 in my job and so much work. I'm like, I'm in. So I was started like $54 per hour. And then when I did per diem, I was like making like about $77 per hour, I think.
Did you get into streaming specifically as a gateway to quit your job and just do full-time streaming?
No. So my husband's a gamer and I am not a gamer at all. But like I've always been kind of like, like he's playing video games again. Like, so I'm like, let me see what his, like what he's up to now. Let me try it for myself. And then our group of friends are mostly like, gamers. And then so I was like, I ended up joining them. And then now I game more than my husband, which is crazy. He's like, you play more video games than me now. And you didn't even like video games back then, but it was just for fun. And then that time it was our way to kind of spend time together, because my husband is still here and I was leaving. So it's kind of like a long distance thing. So we would just kind of play video games together with our friends sometimes. And then one of my friends just brought up the idea, why don't you stream this? It was at that time when Twitch was just starting out. Like it wasn't like a big platform as how it is now. I ended up doing it kind of like on the side because I'm bored and I have no one to talk to. I don't have no friends up north. Every time I stream, it's like the same people. I was like, whoa. And it's so crazy. These people that I met through streaming, I'm still friends with them until now, which is really cool. Yeah.
What game were you streaming?
I was playing League of Legends, and then I got really into Counter-Strike. Like I think I had like 2,500 hours in Counter-Strike. And I was like, I had no life.
That is a full-time job right there.
Seriously, and more clinical hours, like more like gaming hours than clinical hours.
I used to be a StarCraft geek back when StarCraft.
Oh my! I love StarCraft too, but I realized that I'm not great with strategy games.
Yeah, I remember back when I was in high school, I used to be like, I'm not gonna go to college. I'm gonna play StarCraft for the rest of my life.
You could have.
Yeah,
You
it's
could have, because
possible.
yeah.
It's possible. There's I know there's this guy who does commentary videos of StarCraft on
Yeah.
YouTube, and he's
Mhm.
got like over 500,000 subscribers, but he makes so much
Wow.
money.
You'll be surprised. I think when people do the things that they love and it actually really shows in like how they present themselves to like to their audience and all that stuff, I think you could make money with anything. Like, to be honest with you, like I know people who stream themselves cooking and they love it so much. And now like I know her like because like I used to like follow her and she would like make this cooking videos and people would come in, and then now she's like an author of like a book. And it's like all anime inspired cookbook, and she's like an author. She had like 100,000 followers on Instagram and she's monetizing it. That's her full-time job now. So yeah.
So cool. Did you make any money off of it?
I did. I mean, back then I did not know much about, monetizing your content and all, like even negotiating for brand partnerships and all this other stuff. So back then I was really only relying on like people donating to me and also people who are subscribing to my channel. I was maybe getting about like $500 to $1,000 a month, like from doing that.
That's pretty good to be playing video games and making 500.
Right. So I was doing it even like when as a side, and I was going to NP school. So I did not have like a full-time job as a nurse. So I was like needing to pay for my bills and all that stuff. So it really helped a lot. And I had this one guy actually who followed me, and I think, I don't know, but he had a lot of money. I remember the most he's donated to me one time, I was playing Battlefield or something. And I think it was just like so funny that he was like so fond of like how I was like streaming that day. And he ended up like giving me like $1,000 like in one donation. In one donation, like it's not in one donation. It's like maybe 300. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I've never really had that. And then he put another 300 and then another 300. I was like, what? Like people are just giving money to people that they watch they don't even know online. So that really made me think that I was like, wow, like people could really make money from doing things like this.
Yeah. Are you still streaming?
Not anymore. So like I kind of stopped like since I had a kid. Like when I had my daughter, it's just so hard. I'm like, I have no time to really like stream anymore. So I was partnered with Twitch in 2015, and I think I quit around 2018. 2019 I kind of do like from time to time, but I'm not really doing it as much.
If you would have stuck with it through COVID, you could have made so much money.
I could have. And I always think about that because I believe you could really be successful in what you do if you just like stick to it. Because I've done that, and I say that to myself all the time. I'm like, oh, I could have done, this. Even with YouTube, because I was even around YouTube, like when it was like booming back then with makeup videos. Yeah. I was making makeup videos too. And then I was getting like subscribers here and there. And I was like, I could have been like around Bretman Rock, like, because it was that time then it was starting. My cousin's actually a big YouTuber. She was doing the makeup videos around that time too. And then now she has like millions of subscribers, and that's her full-time job.
Yeah, I have a coworker whose son makes like these commentary videos about cartoons or something. I don't know what it is.
But, crazy.
He's making like, well, last time I spoke with her, and this was like over a year, maybe 2 years ago, he's making $60,000 a month.
Oh my gosh.
And his videos are like maybe 3 minutes long. So he just slaps something up together, and then in 3 minutes, he makes just a ridiculous amount of money. And this
That's
kid
so crazy.
He's 18 years old, okay, at the time. And I
wow.
My coworker, his mom, telling me that he was just investing all of his money because he didn't know what to do with it. So he was just like either putting it away in the bank account, saving it, or investing it. And I'm like, he needs
That's smart.
Yes, because most kids want to buy a Lamborghini, they want to buy a house. He wasn't doing any of that. He's still living with her, and he's just saving all of his money.
Oh, he's gonna be set for life.
I know, right? Where was this form of social media when we were that age?
Right?
Oh, really? So then you said you were living in you were living in Sacramento, working at UC Davis. You worked there for 5 to 6 years. And then what did you do?
I worked as a nurse practitioner in Sacramento maybe for a year. And then that's when my husband ended up, back then, like he was my boyfriend, he ended up like proposing. And then when we got married, we decided to move back here because his family is in here. My in-laws live here. And then I have a sister who's here as well. And we're like, if we're going to settle down, we have to go close with family because it's hard to raise a kid without a village. We were debating for the longest time if we should move back and all that stuff. And I was just like, I really did not want to go back because I left. It's funny because like when I left my old job, that very first job, I took out my pension. I took out my money from my pension. I was like, I'm never going to be back here. So I took it out. It's about $13,000. I'm like, I'm taking it. I just spent on like useless crap. And you know what's so funny? I ended up moving back here, ended up working in the same hospital. I know, it's like,
you mean like the UC system?
No, the county hospital, the very first new grad job that I worked at. So when I moved out, I was like, I am leaving this place and never going back. I'm taking out my pension. Like, that's my money. So I took it with me. I bought like a new bag and all that stuff. And then 8 years, I think, I'm not sure how many years, but like 2019, I ended up moving back here. I worked at an urgent care for like less than a year. And I was like, I hate urgent care. And then all of a sudden I applied to that same hospital. And then they're like, oh, you worked here before. So they ended up like looking at my whole resume and like, we're going to take you because you already know the system and all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah. So I'm still working there. And then I really regret taking out my money because with pensions, they change the benefits like later on. So I was in a tier back then where they give more money for that tier. And I was like, I should have kept my money because I would have kept that, that seniority. And then now I'm like starting over again. I lost all that credits from that pension. And I was like, why did I do that?
But you know what? You cannot fault yourself for it because anybody else would have done the exact same thing.
Yeah, thank you for
who honestly keeps their money in a pension like that if they're leaving the facility and they're not ever planning to go back?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I regret it so much because I need to be vested for at least like 5 years to get, some sort of retirement money. And then now like I have to work extra a year again. Whereas like if I had kept it there, I would have been working for like 8 years already in that company.
Well, yes and no, because I know for a fact you don't plan to be an employee for the rest of your life.
No, yeah, that's so true. Yes.
So were you an NP when you moved?
Yes, I was already a nurse practitioner when I moved back here.
What school did you go to?
So I went to UC Davis for NP school. Nice. Pretty cool too, because it's actually a dual track. And every time I say that, people are like, what? Where it's a NP and a PA school. So you get to graduate both as an NP and a PA. It's actually a PA school, but for some reason they had NPs also go through that school. So all my classmates are all mostly NPs. There's only maybe like 8 of us that are nurses. And when you graduate, you have the option to sit for both the NP and the PA board. So you can be both.
Wow. You know what? That is the coolest thing I've ever heard. So for anybody listening into this right now, listen to what she's saying. There was a program. I don't know. Does it still exist?
Not anymore. I was going to say that they stopped it in 2000, I think 17 or no, 2000. Recently, I think 2019, but they stopped it for some reason for accreditation purposes. But I find it really cool because like I know a lot of people are very, very, confused as to whether they should go NP route or if they should be a PA. And I got best of both worlds. Like it was a PA school, but I'm an NP and now I'm doing NP job, but I went through PA training.
That's so awesome because I know there's this guy on YouTube. I forgot his name, but I used to follow him way back when. And I remember he was quitting nursing to get into a physician assistant program. In between, I remember he was waiting to get the authorization so he can take his boards as a PA. And he took on a travel assignment as a nurse because the rates were still high at the time. But now he's practicing as a PA, but practicing as a nurse.
Yeah, that was great.
It would have been cool to have the option to be an NP and a PA because then he could switch between both of them.
Yeah, and when I tell people about this, like there was one NP that I went to like a summit with and she was like, why would you do that? Like, why would you want to be both an NP and a PA? Because I mean, if you think about it, it does not make any sense to hold both because when you apply for a job, you're only going to either be hired as an NP or a PA, not both, right? And then So at that time, my main reasoning why I applied in that program is because I'm like, I want to be more marketable. I want to have more options because I know for sure most hospitals, if you want to go into specialty like surgery and all that stuff, they prefer PAs just because NP programs don't necessarily require you to do all those specialty, training. So they prefer PAs over NPs. NPs is more catered towards like primary care. At that time, I was like, I'm going to do both because I want to be more marketable. I want to have more options when I graduate. Like, what if I want to go surgery? What if I want to do, ICU, want to be a trauma NP? That was the main reason why I did that. Later on, I decided that I'm just going to be an NP. I know some people who were nurses and they went through the same program and they ended up just doing PA afterwards. So, I mean, it really, I guess, depends on your career goals, like what you want to do eventually.
Yeah. And how much did you pay for the tuition?
Pretty cool because honestly, like I felt so bad for my PA counterparts because their tuition, even though we're going through the same program, is so much more expensive than the NP. So they had, I think theirs is like over $100,000, to be honest with you. For me, I applied through so many scholarships. I got like some scholarships. So I think I ended up only owing maybe like $20,000 to $30,000.
Cool. You didn't get any tuition reimbursement from UC Davis at the time?
No, I should have done that route, but I think if you're doing per diem, they don't necessarily want to pay for your tuition. I think if I had stayed full time, I would have done the reimbursement, but doing full-time nurse and going to school, I think is very hard, especially that program, because that program really requires you to be in class. Our didactics and everything is like really classroom based. You have to really be with the professor and all that stuff. You have to go from 8 to 5, that kind of stuff. So I remember the first few months I was doing both full-time nursing and full-time student. I worked night shift. I would clock out, still in my scrubs, go to my apartment real quick, change, and then at 8 o'clock, go to my class. I was like really hustling. I was like, I cannot do this. Like, this is just too much. So I did that for maybe 4 to 6 months. And then I was like, I'm just going to do per diem. And then so I did per diem after that. And then I was so thankful that I prioritized my health and my, sleep, because I wouldn't have gone the whole program if I had stayed full-time nurse at that time.
And when did you start the program and when did you complete it?
So 2015 is when I applied and I got in the program. 2017 is when I graduated. The program lasted, I think, 2.5 years. So
that's not bad at all. That's pretty
good. It actually went by pretty fast. And so like when people tell me that they don't want to go back to school to be an NP, even though they really want to do it because it's so long, I'm like, to be honest with you, 2 years is going to go by fast.
Absolutely. So then you got this job where you're at now in San Bernardino. Is that correct? Or
no?
Now, and you're a practicing NP.
Yes.
What kind of position do you hold?
Specialty?
Or specialty?
I work in pulmonary and sleep medicine.
Oh.
It's the best specialty ever, to be honest with you. I love pulmonary and sleep.
Wow. How did you find out about that position?
I am such a woo-woo. I am one of those people who really believe in manifesting the life that you want for yourself and really knowing that there's something that is meant for you. I told you that when I moved back here, I initially got like an urgent care job and I hated it. I was seeing like 70 to 100 patients a day. And I'm like, I'm not going to do this. Only worked there for maybe like 9 to 10 months. And I was like, I'm done. And then so I applied to my old job, the very first job I had as a nurse. And I was like, I would just take whatever, anything other than urgent care. The opening was actually for a family practice clinic. And then the supervisor or like the manager for the clinic saw my resume and I had really great, experience with ICU. I worked in ICU all my life. And then they saw that I was working in the ICU there before. And then the manager was like, well, the pulmonologist, the pulmonary also runs the ICU, right? Like the pulmonary critical care. And then so he's like, we need actually help in the pulmonary department, like pulmonary and critical care. And I wonder if you would be a good fit for this because you've worked here already as an ICU nurse before. I did not know anything about pulmonary before. I've never worked specialty as a nurse practitioner. It's always been family practice or urgent care. So I met with a pulmonologist, ended up really liking him and he liked me too. He's like, oh, like I love your experience. You know how to deal with intubated patients and this and that. And it was a pulmonary and critical care, like position at that time. And then the manager was like, do you want to just take this position instead of family practice? And then I was like, I guess, like, I'll take it. And then like 4 years since then, I've been working pulmonary, and I honestly think that it's the best specialty. And a lot of people who hated being a nurse practitioner always like complains to me about like working in primary care or like in their jobs. I'm like, you need to just find a specialty that works for the lifestyle that you want for yourself. Because honestly, if you stay in primary care and you're miserable and like you're not getting paid good, you're not going to be happy being a nurse practitioner. Because I've had that like with one of my friends. She ended up going back as a nurse. And I'm like, you went to school to be an NP just to go back and do a nursing job. I always tell them there's a specialty that's meant for you and you just got to go find it. This is a specialty where I felt like I thrived the best, like pulmonary and sleep. I love it. Like it's the best. And, like I don't want to be an employee forever, but if I would, this is something that I would do. Like I kept on thinking like, being an entrepreneur is like just one of those things, like you hold on to your 9 to 5, like your, like your job, because it's so safe. It's so comfortable, but in your heart that you're meant for something else. Like this is not the path that is chosen for you. You don't want to be someone else's worker. You want to work for yourself. And then so that's me. But at the same time, I'm like, I really love my job. I really love my patients, like I'm getting paid good here. I don't want to leave, It's like a constant struggle of like, should I quit? Should I, focus on my business? Should I, it's so hard.
I thought you were going to say, I don't want to be somebody else's B.
I was going to say that, but I don't want to be.
You want to be politically correct, okay?
Yeah.
So what are your roles and your responsibility in your current job?
So I really love my job because I think that like I really see my role as a nurse practitioner because I work with a team. I have 3 attending physicians who work with me. So I'm like the only nurse practitioner in our specialty. My job is to see patients that are kind of like stable. They just need a lot of follow-ups. I see some patients that are new as well, but I really work with my attending physicians in like giving our patients, the care for pulmonary and sleep problems. And I ended up actually just working more outpatient. I used to round in the hospital with them before, like looking at pulmonary consults and all that stuff. But when the pandemic happened, I was like, I don't want to be in the hospital. I don't want to be exposed to COVID. Like I am going home to my premature baby. I just want to be in the clinic. So I ended up just staying in the clinic. And then now I'm seeing most of the sleep apnea patients and asthma COPD patients in our clinic, and those who need like DMEs, like oxygen, stuff, supplies and all that stuff. So I refill for all of those. And I really love it. And I think having a great manager is also good, because my manager is very flexible. If I need to be off because my kid is sick or like I have to pick her up from daycare, I'm able to do that. So it's really nice to have that flexibility at work.
How many hours a day are you working? How many days per week are you working?
I don't honestly want to like say it out loud because it's so good. I'm like, I don't want anyone to be like, wow, like she had it so good. I work Monday to Thursday and it's supposed to be 10 hours, but I'm only working like 8 hours every day because the last 2 hours are meant for like my admin time. So admin time is the time when I actually go through my charts, call patients if they need to be followed up on like a lab, or like if I have to refill prescriptions or write like supplies for CPAP or like oxygen. Those last 2 hours are kind of like nice because I can do it at home, I can do it at work, and it's very nice. It's almost like working 8-hour 4-day a week. It's like the best.
Yeah.
Which makes me sometimes wonder if I should even like quit my job and just be an entrepreneur. My husband was like, you want to quit your 9 to 5 to work 24/7, like for reals.
Here's the thing, when you work for yourself, there's a different feeling to that than working for someone else, because you can set your own schedule, you set your own hours, and then that the amount of effort you put into it can compound income wise, so that's what I always think about. And just having to rely on your employer for your livelihood, like if you don't show up for work, you're not going to collect a paycheck.
I agree with you.
Yeah, so I get where you're coming from.
And like I think that the one thing that really got me to, because I love working working, like I think of myself as like a really hard worker, and how like with working for somebody, like being an employee, like you have a ceiling that you hit every time. Like no matter how many hours you work, no matter how hard you work, you're always going to hit that ceiling. But if you work as much as how much you're working for yourself, like you could get past that ceiling and make way, way more money. So I always think of it that way, that the potential for you making more money is way more when you're working for yourself versus working for someone else.
Yeah, and the way I look at it is, when you make more money, you're kind of just buying your time back, because that's just extra hours that you don't have to work to make a living. There's a couple of people that I follow, and one of them is Dan Henry. And this is a guy that grew up in a really poor family. And he said he used to work at a pizza shop when he was younger, and he opened up his own restaurant. He grew the restaurant to become like a very successful business, but now he does like marketing. He teaches people how to market their businesses and themselves, and he charges $150,000 for you to spend one day with him.
Wow.
$150,000. That's like what a nurse makes in a year in California.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
Like, when you're at that level, it's like you could just make that in one day and just relax for the rest of the month,
Yeah. It's so true. I don't know if you know Amy Porterfield. She's like big in the digital marketing space and course creation and all that stuff. I was a part of her boot camp earlier, I think like around September. And it's crazy because like she only like does this thing like once a year or twice a year, like this big like event where she invites people to get into her academy to create, courses and all that stuff. And it's a pretty expensive program. It's like about $2,000 per person. She does it like once or twice a year, but she has over like 5,000 people in her program right now. So if you think about it, she makes like millions of dollars with just the last part of the year doing this thing. And the rest of the year, she can just relax, make some money, like doing not very extensive, marketing and all that stuff. It's crazy how much money you can make if you work for yourself.
Yeah. So why did you decide, and when did you decide to get into social media and monetize?
I've always been kind of like the person who loves to express myself by creating things. And back then, I did not even think about monetizing it. This is not like something that I would think of as a business. So I was really only doing things for fun. Even like making finance content and nursing content is all for fun. It wasn't until I forgot her name, but I saw a video of a girl who was teaching her audience how to blog and like how she made like 6 figures by blogging and all that stuff. And I watched that one video. And one thing that really got to me is like, she said, when you make content for yourself, it's not going to sell. But if you make content that speaks to the people that you want to help, or you want to, like your audience, if you make content for them, you can make money off of you creating something, if that's something that you want to do. And after that, I kind of like pivoted the way I make content, because before it's more of just like really expressing myself, like day in the life, this is my cup, this is what I eat for breakfast. It's all me, about me. And then when I pivoted to where like I'm helping somebody, like educate themselves about like their retirement, or like about, like their finance, and about like paying off their debt and all that stuff. Like when I pivoted my content, that's when I found that I grew more audience and I felt more, I guess, fulfilled in creating. And then that's when I was like, maybe this is something that I could do and get paid for, because, time and energy is like one of your best assets. And like I've been doing this for like 3 years without expecting anything, in return. But it gets to a point where you're like, wow, like I'm putting so much time doing things for free. So I started, monetizing, and I started really charging for like my time, which it blew my mind, because I was like, wow, like people can get paid for this. Like I had like one brand reach out to me for like a partnership, and like they offered me about like $5,000 for like, like for a sponsorship for this 3 months that I have to make content and all that stuff. And I was like, I make that much, like not even that much, when I was like a new grad nurse in like 2 months.
Wow.
So, or like a month or two. It really blew my mind, because I think that if you value your time and your energy, people would value your time and energy as well. That's one thing that I really learned with monetizing your content online.
What platform was it that they sponsored you on?
So it was TikTok. I think that's where I got kind of like not big because I wouldn't really consider myself big, but that's when I really see like a lot of growth like during the pandemic because TikTok was like booming at that time. And I was just like making a lot of like finance content on TikTok. Like I grew to like almost 67,000 followers. And I wasn't even really putting that much time in it. I was just doing it for fun, like the last 3 years. And then so when I saw that brands started coming to me for paid collaborations and all that stuff, oh, we'll pay you this much for one video and all that stuff. I was like, wow, like I could make money off of this. And then so, yeah, that's when I started thinking that maybe I should turn this into a business. And that wasn't even like until just this year that I decided to do that. No.
Interesting. With YouTube, I remember the first time that I got a company to reach out to me. So it was a company that's related to the niche that I'm already in. So I'm like, this is going to work for both of us. And I can easily put a dedicated video or an integrated video and it will work for my audience. Plus, it's a company that is very trusted. When they reached out to me, initially, I thought it was like a scam. I didn't want to like even respond to the emails, but then they reached out to me on Instagram as well. I'm like, oh, maybe it's real. It's so legit. We set up a meeting and then, I spoke to them and I told them how long it takes me to edit these videos. Because when I used to edit them myself, it would take me like 26 to 30 hours just to edit one video.
They take a lot.
Yes, right. So I told them my time is very valuable. So I wrote down like a lengthy PowerPoint, not a PowerPoint, but like a PDF presentation to show why I'm charging what I'm going to charge and how much time each task takes me. So that includes researching the topic, planning everything, and then filming everything, editing it and putting it out on the internet and then managing the comments and the marketing and all of that. And then you're a one-man team, right? So you're also the persona behind all of this. Yeah. So in addition to marketing, you are the persona. So I told them I was going to charge them $5,000 for my time. And they got back to me a few days later and they told me they'd accept my offer. So then I'm like, wow, I didn't think they were going to take that. But then I use that now as my baseline. So like going forward, I'm not going to accept anything less than that. So then I reached out to another company a few months later and I told them that I was interested in a collaboration with them. And we set up a meeting. And the same day that we had the meeting, I told them my offer on the call. And I said it was going to cost $5,000. And they didn't even think about it. They said, okay, we'll take it. And I'm thinking to myself, damn, I should have charged $10,000.
That's very, very common, like for, making money on social media, being a content creator. It's like sometimes you wonder if you're undercharging, overcharging. And one thing that I learned, like when you get approached by, companies and all that stuff, when they offer you like a certain rate and they ask you what your rate is, what I learned is like for you not to tell them and just like tell them what is your budget. If it works for me, like your budget works for me, we can work together. Because a lot of times that happens where you give them a number and they're like, okay, we'll take it. Like, that they have a higher budget for that campaign, right?
Yeah, I learned my lesson from that one. That's for sure. So can I ask you a question? How have you documented your income from your content creation business since you started?
Not necessarily. I don't have it like on top of my head, but there was 1 month, I think that I told you last time, I think it was like in September where I made more in my content creation than my actual like nursing salary or like my nursing monthly salary.
Wow,
No, and I think it's because it was the time that I released my course or like released my product, and I was doing kind of like the founding launch strategy where you're starting out. So you have like people who are founding members and they're pretty much helping you create that product. So I released it in September. I was really expecting less than 10 people to join in because I'm like, I don't know, like I haven't done this before. I haven't released anything out in the world. I've done ebooks before. That has made over $1,000. I was surprised because it's a pretty low ticket, product. Like I was only selling it for like $20 and I made like $1,000 on it. It was just like on the side too. Like I wasn't even actively promoting it. It was just like on my blog and in my bio and people are buying it. So I was like, oh, Like that's crazy. Like people are paying for my expertise, like what I know. And then so with the course, I did this strategy, and there's about 12 people who enrolled, and I was selling this course for like $700. With that one launch, I made like $8,000. That time too, like a brand partnership like paid me for like content that I did for them earlier this year, like around Nurses Week. I got about 2,500 from that. It was just like me just making like 3 videos in 3 months.
Nice.
That's it. Yeah, it was really nice. And then there was another company that I work for that I wrote like a blog piece for them. I write for blogs, and they just reached out to me actually. So they paid me like $750 for it. So I don't even really know on top of my head. Here and there, I sold some ebooks as well around that time. So I made over like $10,000 like that month.
That's amazing.
So yeah, so it was really nice. I was like, wow, like if I can make that much in 1 month doing this on the side, I'm like, what if I do this full time and actually give my full energy to this and actually be more intentional with the time that I spend like in my business? Like, I wonder how much I'd make. My goal is to make like $20,000 to $50,000 a month. I'm like the Lulu, I'm telling you.
No, that's me right there.
Yeah.
No, what? I'm thinking 25 to 50 initially, and then 50 to 100 after.
Yeah, that's my goal too. Like 20 to 50 in my first like year, maybe by next year. And then after that, $50,000 to $100,000 a month. And then my husband's like, Monica, it's like, go, I'm here to support you. Like whatever you say, how much money you want to make, you can do it. Like, I'm just here to be a supporter.
So my friend Nanelle from the UK, who's also a nurse there, she's a YouTuber. I remember when she interviewed me, she had like 30,000 subscribers, and now she has like 156,000. She interviewed me almost like 9 months ago, something like that. But I had 5,000 subscribers at the time. But she's like, really, she pumps out like 1 video every 2 days. And she has an editor who helps her with these videos. But she is making around like anywhere from 5,000 to 5,500 every month just from YouTube ads. And then she makes about 3,000 to 3,500 just from sponsorships every single month. She makes like maybe 4 to 5 times more from her YouTube income than she does as a nurse in the UK. Because in the UK, they only make 3,000 to 3,500.
Yeah, they don't get paid good.
You know what? Let me show you something. I'm going to share it with you. I track everything, right? So let me just show you what my income looks like, because I shared this in one of our live streams, but I just want to share it real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to make it full screen so you can see the whole thing. So I documented and I looked back, way back, to see how much my income and Monica's income was from like 2021 till now. And you can see here that in 2021, let's just go all the way to the bottom. Okay, right over here. We were making $25,000 a month combined from our W-2 income, which is right here. And we made $26,000 the following year and $23,000, but we're working 19 hours per week right now. And okay, so here's YouTube though. This is the content creation side. Our first year, we made $681 from YouTube ads and $434 from selling spreadsheets on our website. Wow. That was $1,100 for the entire year, right? And then we made $7,000 the following year from YouTube ads, $36 from affiliates, and $3,175 from selling spreadsheets. This year, we're making $6,900 from selling spreadsheets, $10,200 from our sponsors. Wow. Then YouTube ads, right? So it's $28,000. So as you can see, like the increments that it's increasing by, it's much higher every single year. Yeah. It's slow. It's not like super fast, but it's I love that it used to be $93 in 2021. Yeah, that's then $923 and now $2,893. So it's steadily increasing, which is great. And I'm hoping that in 2 years from now, it'll probably be at like $10,000 or something like that.
And you can totally do it.
My goal is though, because before we started this interview, I told you that most of my guests or my viewers actually want me and Monica to start a mentorship program or a course. At the time, we actually didn't want to do that. We wanted to start a clothing brand, and we wanted to monetize that so that we could show other people how to start their own e-commerce store. But we had a mentor who told us, don't do that. You have an audience that's willing to pay for something that you can teach them, that you understand, related to the thing. I was like, you know what? I don't know why I even joined this mentorship program. You're supposed to tell me to start the clothing brand. You know?
No, but it's crazy because like that's one thing I learned too from like being a content creator and like the business side of it as well, is that you want to build a community first and you want to have an audience, because if you don't have an audience, if you don't have a community, like no one's gonna buy anything from you. And then so like from the audience that you've built through the years that you've making this content about nursing and like making money and nursing and all this stuff, you have to listen to what your audience wants. Like, you know, like if you're gonna be catering to that audience, like now whenever, like I'm so intentional when I make content now, like I always think about the people that I want to serve or like the people that I want to help. And then so like when I think, for example, if I'm going to make like a reel or like a video, like is this something that is meant for the person that I want to help? Like I always think they always have, you know how they say you always have to have that avatar of like, for me, like it's always like a nurse who's burnt out, who wants to learn about money, who wants to make her money work for her by learning how to invest and learning about how to control her money. So I think of it like that way whenever I make content. And like if you're going to be selling something or like starting a business on something, think of that person and what do you think that person would need. So in your case, I mean, when you said that you were going to do drop shipping, I was like, why? No, I had the same thing in mind, but I'm like, but you know, if that's something that you want to do, but I was like, you have this really great audience already who are nurses, who are like into career growth and all that stuff. So I think that you're already helping them out by you making this YouTube videos. I think that your mentor did you good, even though he was doing drop shipping course or like the e-commerce stores, by telling you that you need to really work with what your audience are needing from you.
I totally agree. I do. And I know, I mean, he stated the obvious. I know that. But, you know, my reasoning behind starting an e-commerce brand was because I just want to be able to work from a laptop anywhere in the world. And I didn't want to be tied to nursing, because we're all ultimately going to leave the profession. We're not going to know what's happening in real time with nursing. We might know what was happening back when we were actually working as nurses. You know what I mean? So like we won't have firsthand experience. And I don't want to be that one person that's teaching someone about nursing when I'm no longer practicing as a nurse.
That's true too. And the thing is, like, you can totally do the e-commerce thing, but the thing with that's kind of hard is that you may need to start back from scratch, like building an audience, building the community who's going to be willing to buy that course or like buy, you know, that mentorship about starting a business. And, you know, there may be a few people who are nurses who are willing to be, you know, like that, like coming from your now community, but you can totally do it. It's just you have to start over.
I know. Okay.
Yeah.
So now I want to talk about what is it that you actually teach or talk about on your Instagram and TikTok accounts?
I have always been like growing up, my mom always thought that I'm like the one who's bad with money, because she's always like, oh, you spend so much money, always buy useless things. And so growing up, I've always had that rep around like my family that my mom, she's one of those like Filipino moms who are like, I can see you as someone who's going to be like the one spending this much when you know, like she always like kind of paints me as that person. And then I was pretty bad with money. I mean, not really bad, but I didn't know anything about money growing up. I wouldn't say that we really came from like a low income family. Like I know that we're well off compared to other people when we were living in the Philippines. My dad is a physician. My mom is a nurse. So growing up, like I've kind of like know that we can afford things, but we're not rich. Like my parents never made us feel like we're rich. My mom actually came from a very, very like poor family. So we lived in the province like when we were younger. Like honestly, like the toilet there does not have a flush and all that stuff. Like, so I really grew up like in the boonies pretty much. Like my parents never made us feel that we're rich, even though I know that we can afford most things than other people. But growing up, my parents never talked to us about money. Like they never sat down to, you know, like teach us about financial literacy and everything. So my tendency growing up was that whenever I make money, I spend it. That's how I was like when I was a new grad nurse. Like
You
I
sound
just
like Monica.
I felt like I was so deprived, like, when I was a student, like I didn't get to buy the things that I want because I have no money. And then so when I was making big girl money, I ended up just buying purses. I even bought like an Infinity G37 car. It was like a two-door. It was a two-door car. And I was like, why did I buy this car? Like it was like so like, those things like I just spend and spend. And the only thing that my parents taught me is to just save money, because that's how they've always been taught. Like save money, work, save, and that's how you're gonna, be rich. Like work until retirement. I've never had any entrepreneurs in our family. No one. Like everybody just worked until retirement. That's how it is. I didn't know anything and I was pretty bad with money, and I was living paycheck to paycheck even with a nursing job. I was making like $70,000 to $80,000 a year, and I'm like, I shouldn't be living paycheck to paycheck. Like I have to wait for the next paycheck to pay my bills. And then I was like, I shouldn't be like this. But it wasn't until I actually became pregnant with my daughter that I was like, I really need to get my shit together. Because I was like, I'm going to be responsible for another human being and I cannot be like this. When I was making $70,000 and I moved to Sacramento and I was making way more, I was still living paycheck to paycheck. I was like, why is it like this? So that's when I was like, it's not how much you make, it's how much money you keep and like how much you can control like your finances. When I had my daughter, that's when I was like, I need to be responsible. And for me, the way that I learn things is if I can teach it. I find that I understand things better if I can actually teach it to someone else. So like when I was learning, I was making those TikTok videos, like I was learning along the way and I got really good at like knowing this kind of things. And then that's when my family, people that I know from work started asking me, questions like, what do you think I should do for my retirement? Or like, which one should I invest in? That kind of stuff. And that's when the whole, the nurse who invests like kind of came about. I find that people started coming to me for those questions because I started making content about it. And that's really how I learned about finance. And now I teach nurses how to invest in the stock market because I love the stock market. And I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers because people are like, well, stock market is not really, you're going to not make a lot of money. Like, you make more money in real estate or investing in it. But in my mind, my audience or like the people that I serve are nurses who are still working full time as nurses. And there are some nurses who actually love being nurses. And it's maybe something that they want to do until retirement, or maybe not. They want to retire early. Some people are not big on like real estate because it requires a lot of like big capital right away. And it requires you to be on phone calls and like talk to people and all that stuff. Some people don't want to do that. Some people just want to be lazy, want to invest in the stock market, learn how to pick stocks and all that stuff, and just go on with their day, work their 9 to 5 and travel if they want to. For me, like I just want to make sure that they're investing their money while they're doing all those things, because not a lot of nurses do that while they're already working their full-time jobs. So my goal is to have more nurses get invested, learn more about investing. That way they can make their money work while they're working, so they have options later on if they want to retire early or not.
Gotcha. So what is included in your program?
My program is very comprehensive. Like it's more of like learning like how the stock market works. And I'm not one of those people who is like an end all be all, like just invest in index funds and ETFs. Like I really give my students like the options of what they can invest in. So because I've traded before, I've traded options, I've invested in crypto and all that stuff. So, I teach them how to pick good stocks, like how they can do a good fundamental technical analysis for stock, what things they should look for. And if they want to just be lazy, they can just invest in ETFs and index funds if that's something because it would require time to actually like pick stocks. And I always tell them that most people just lose money investing in individual stocks. But if that's something that they want to do, they can have the option to do that as well. So it's really just my framework and my step-by-step guide in a way that they can understand, because investing is a little, especially stock market investing, could be a little confusing for somebody who don't know anything about investing. I know for sure, because when I was starting out, like learning about these things, I was like, I don't want to invest there. Like, I don't want to lose money. I don't want to, I don't want to put in money, something that I don't understand. So I had a framework. And I think one of the great things, like when I teach, is that I teach it in a way that it's like step by step, like, and I'm very visual. So it's all like a lot of like visuals and everything. The main thing that I teach in that program is not just really investing in the stock market. It's really being able to have the power and control of your money and how that can help you live the life that you want for yourself. I guess in a way that I'm really like offering my students not just learning how to invest, but actually learning how their money works and how they can put it into their advantage to reach like the life that they want for themselves. So it's more of like really being confident in the way that they invest or like in the way that they handle their money. Because it's not just really investing in that course. Because I think in order to be a great investor, you have to really have a good foundation as well in your finances. Like I can't just like teach people how to invest in the stock market without talking about like paying off their student loans or how they can pay it off or like how they can make more money or how they can negotiate for their salaries or how they can increase their income by doing other side hustles if they want to accelerate that investing portion. So it really is a very comprehensive thing. And I added even kind of like a coaching side to it because I don't want people to just do it all on their own. So it has like some group coaching every 2 weeks. The first cohort that I had to do it like every week almost because I really want to make sure that they're getting it because I'm like trying to see if this is something that they actually can learn from or like they can benefit from. And so yeah, it's crazy. Like when you make courses like this or like offers like this, pricing is so hard. But then like it's funny because like when I was making it and I was like actually drafting the offer, doing the outline, doing all these things, I'm like, I should be charging more for this. You know, like you realize the value that you have in the offer that you give. When you think of that, pricing sometimes can get a little iffy because you're like, I'm not going to charge this much. I even had one nurse is like, you're taking money from nurses by charging for your course, blah, blah, blah. And then so
I saw that.
yeah, and then it's so like iffy to like because I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to be like, you know, like it's hard to sell things because I'm just not that kind of person. Like I've always thought that I don't want to work retail. I work in Forever 21 before. So I've had some experience with like sales, but I'm like, I don't like to do this. But I like to think of it in a way. One of the not really one of like the coaches that I follow said like whenever you offer things like this, like think of it like as a sacred place where you want your audience to have a transformation and you selling it is just kind of like an invitation for them to come to that sacred place. But in order for them to get there, they have to put in the commitment, the time and the energy. And that can only be done by you giving to them where they have to spend money for it because free stuff is everywhere. Anyone can just buy courses. I mean, look up things online. You can look up like how to invest in the stock market yourself. Like Google is free. But like if people have skin in the game and they pay for something, they're more than likely to really put into action to actually do the work. And I totally believe that because I have honestly tried to make a course for the past 2 years, but I've never really done it because I was just doing it on my own. It wasn't until I paid for a mentor or like a business coach and I paid about like 2,500 grand on it that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Like I'm actually gonna do it. And that's when the magic happened, when I actually put in the work. And I thought that, you know, when I have skin in the game, then I would be more willing to put in what's needed to get that thing done.
I think it's pretty sad because I said this before, I don't understand how people don't question spending $40, $50, $100,000 on school and tuition.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to a course from someone who's been in an area in their lives where you want to be, who has gone through the rounds to get to where you want to be in life, you're not willing to invest in that. And that just makes no sense to me. The reason why I invested in this mentorship program that we're in, that Monica and I are in, is because I looked at all of the valuable information that our mentor puts out on the internet. And I'm like, if he's giving this stuff out for free, I can't even imagine how valuable his content actually is once I'm in the course and the mentorship program. And then honestly, even though like we're not going to proceed with the clothing line that we were going to do initially, the value that I gained from joining his mentorship program was invaluable. Like I would have never been able to get that from school ever. Yeah. Actually, we have like mastermind groups and sessions in that program. And there's a couple of people who have managed to get celebrities to wear their clothing, which is crazy.
Wow.
Like, yeah, like Snoop Dogg and Justin Bieber and like, you know, Rihanna is up there. Like these are the type of people that you're going to be communicating with in groups like this, people that are at higher level, the type of level that you wish you could be in. And they teach you how to get there. Again, like you can't get that anywhere else.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. That's something that I learned kind of like later on in my entrepreneurship like journey. It's like you have to really spend money to make money, and that includes investing in yourself, investing in learning from people who's done it before, who can guide you. Because for all you know, like you can do it on your own, but that's going to take you so much time, so long to get to where you want to be. But if you have somebody who can hold your hand to get to that, and you being able to put in that commitment, that time to do that, then that's where really it's going to happen. Like that's when you'll see that there's really a chance that you can get there.
Yeah, for sure. So, you know what? Before we end the call, I used to ask my guests all the time about their cost of living and their income and all of that. Can you round all of this up for me? Like, how much are you bringing in per month and how much are you spending, and break down the expenses?
So I live in a very low cost city in California. And that's one of the things that I really love. I tell people I live in California, but they don't know that there are places in California where you can live literally not like how people live in the Bay Area or in Los Angeles. In here, I make about $170,000 as a
Wow,
nurse
girl,
practitioner.
that's nice.
Thanks.
For a quick job like that.
I am so lucky.
Yeah.
And then content creation, I make like rounding off, like on top of my head. I mean, it's very different, but average wise, I say I make $1,000 to $5,000 a month. And then our expenses is we do have a rental property. So I pay for 2 mortgages, like about $5,000 for 2 houses. I get about $2,500 for one of the rentals every month. Expenses wise, like me and my husband, we're great partners because we are really on the same page when it comes to our finances. We're not very lavish. Like we really live below our means. So unless we're going to be traveling somewhere or like having a big vacation with family, we spend like less than $300, $400 a month on food and expenses. Like the whole thing would be maybe less than like $2,000. Everything else we invest. We're very aggressive investors. I would say that I'm investing at least 20 to 30% of my income every month. This is why I am on track and planning to retire before I turn 45. So in less than 10 years, I'm planning to make work like completely optional. Because if I like quit my full-time job, I'm still probably going to work per diem or part-time to supplement our income and to invest more so we can eventually just focus 100% on our business.
And what is your target amount that you want to retire with when you do reach retirement?
It's a little difficult because like, fire number and everything changes as your goal changes over time.
It just keeps getting higher.
Yeah, right? Just like you realize how expensive things are and you're like, oh, like I need more. So right now, like my fire number really is just like $2 million though. But I know eventually it's going to change. And I think it's because I'm really accounting for like a really low cost of living in the future. Like I'm not thinking of like really living luxury or lavishly. Like I'm one of those people who really enjoy just living kind of like a simple life. If I have the time to spend with my kids and buy my books and read my books when I want to, buy plants when I want to, and travel once a year with my family, I'm happy. That's it. Like that's all I really want in life and be able to like work for myself. So that's really my whole goal.
I remember when I first started the YouTube channel, our goal or my goal was like 3.75 million. So I could have $150,000 every single year. But honestly, I'm like, no, maybe it needs to be 10 million.
I'm 2 million for now because I'm like thinking I'm gonna be working. I mean, like I'm gonna require less money in the future. Hopefully, like it changes later on.
No, I just want to be able to like take a $20,000 trip to Bora Bora if I want to. Fly first class. I've never flown first class, right? And I don't do it because I'm too cheap.
You can do points.
You can do points. Yeah, that's true. I've just been accumulating all our points so I can do that. But yeah, that's true. Yeah, because we spend all of the spending goes to our credit card. So like all the bills that we have to pay, everything, all of the bills. Yeah. The only thing that doesn't go into the credit card is the mortgage because we can't use our credit card to pay our mortgage. But if we could, I would have done that and just use the cash in our bank account to pay off the credit card before the due date.
It would be nice if they actually accept credit card. I think we would have a lot of points by now too.
Yeah, right. So do you have any new plans or anything else going on in your life right now?
It's crazy that you asked that question because
I should say why we're laughing. It's because we edited the call and we have to re-record this, okay?
I'm actually gonna go on a flight to New York today. Later today, I'm catching it like a red eye flight. I got invited on an influencer summit at the New York Stock Exchange, and I'm actually gonna be one of those people that's gonna be up ringing the bell for an ETF that's going to be released in public by BlackRock. So it's going to be really exciting because it's my first time going to the New York Stock Exchange. I can go to the trading floor and yeah, so I'm so excited.
That's huge. You should put that in your course.
I should. Yeah.
Because then it gives you more credibility.
Yeah. I'm so excited. You know, like when they invited me for this event, I was even hesitating because I'm like, oh, should I go or not? It was actually my dad who was like, this is a once in a lifetime thing to be able to go up and ring the bell, you know, for New York Stock Exchange. You should just do it. I was like, okay, I'm going to go fly to New York. And so, yes.
Are they paid for it or are you having to pay for the flight?
I'm paying for it, but like they have like an event that's, I think they will give out something during the event. I think for me, I just want to take that opportunity. Like me and my husband used up all our points. It's going to be free for us in a sense that we used all our credit card points for the hotel and also for our flight. So I'm like, we're just going to do it.
Oh, you better record all of this.
Yeah, I'm actually
going to include this in the final video. Maybe I can.
Hopefully, I can maybe give you.
Yeah, see if you can get some horizontal footage too. Not just
okay.
And then send it to you.
Okay.
I mean, if you get vertical, that's fine. I'll include that anyway.
I know. I'm like bringing like my camera and all the extra chargers and everything because I'm like, it's once in a lifetime. I'm just gonna like take a video of everything. So
did they reach out to you on TikTok?
Yes, it's actually like on TikTok, and I was really surprised that they invited me. They even sent me like a PR package like from their company. I was like, wow, like I didn't think that they would, and I thought it was even a scam too, like how you were. But then they followed me on Instagram, and I was like, oh, it's legit. It was even last minute that they offered a spot in the bell ringing. They're like, would you be interested? We like what you're doing, teaching nurses about financial wellness and literacy. And I think that you'd be a great fit to be one of the person to ring the bell. And I was like, there's only 6 people that they're going to put up there. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I was telling my husband, bring your phone, bring the camera, just record everything.
Okay, so how can my viewers find you if they're interested in like signing up for your course or following you on social media? I
am Nurse Who Invests in Instagram, Nursing Flow Sheet in TikTok, and I do have a blog as well. That's a personal finance blog for nurses, nursingflowsheet.com, and Elaine Maala on YouTube for just day in the lives. If you enjoyed this episode, then I'm sure you're going to enjoy this one right here. So make sure you click on it and subscribe to us for more.